and things to look at in the maze you'll find.
Alright, hello, gentle viewers. Welcome to another episode of Mazecast. I think this is episode number 19, and we're doing room. No. This is episode 21, and we're doing room number 21 as well.
Oh, you did that on purpose, didn't you?
No, what can make you say that? No, I'm totally up to speed. No, this is room 21. Not actually chosen for that reason, I don't think. No, I just kind of like this room. I also didn't choose it for the Thanksgiving theme, although I could have, because there's a large, delicious, edible-looking bird in here. But no, I've always had a fondness for this room, and it seems pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot going on in here, so I'm going to go ahead and recap some of the stuff that's been tossed around so far. To get any words in first.
I don't really have any words.
Excellent.
No, yeah, we'll wait and see what you cover.
Cool. Okay. So let's see. Just to start off with this, we've got 3 cards so far, and we've got a couple of things that have been confirmed. One of the things that have been confirmed is the solution that kind of Vincent and Mr. Gentile, I think, collaborated on and put together. They were looking at the light and darkness in the room, and they saw that the 4 lighter shrubs were in front of the correct door, 44, whereas there were some darker shrubs in front of the least desirable door, obviously 24. In fact, I should say a little bit. This room is in the loop. It's one of the rooms that you can get to immediately from number 1, and it's a little curious because it's part of the. This is the middle step in the swiftest path to your demise that you could possibly carry through in the maze, because you can go right from 1 to here and then right into 24 and you're done. So it's a bit of a dangerous room. The ideal door is 44 because that'll carry you further around the ring of the loop, and then there's also the door to 31, which is less desirable. Not a huge deal breaker because you can also get to 44 from 31. So there's one that you clearly prefer and one that you clearly don't prefer, and another one that is a pretty bad idea. So we look for clues to point us to 44, and that's one that White Raven has confirmed, that the lighter coloration of the shrubs in 44 should point you in that direction. And another aspect of this, which Gentile contributed, is the idea that when you look at the sign with the 2 intertwined snakes, you see a white snake and a black snake, and the white snake is facing toward 44, which is the desirable door, and the black snake is facing which is the undesirable door. So again, playing off the whole light and dark theme, which usually holds water in this maze, even though we keep finding subversions. Would therefore want to pick 44. And this is also, Alex has also added, this hasn't been confirmed, but Alex has added it, and it seems legit to me that Alex also wants to associate the white bird with 31. So you have 2 white animals associated with the 2 okay doors, and the dark animal associated with the door that you do not want to take. And then, let's see, what else? Oh, yeah, so also this stuff that Vince and Gentile have been hammering out includes the idea that you have 4 light shrubs and 4 dark shrubs overall, 4 on each side. I mean, I should rather say that there are 2 tufts on each of the shrubs. So you have 4 tufts on each side altogether, and that gives you 4 and 4, which gives you 44. So that's all been sort of intertwined into this whole light-dark set of related solutions. And then there's another confirmed solution, which is rather separate, which belongs to Vince, and that is the fact that he noticed that there are 3 little steps in the door to 44, whereas you can't see anything for 24, and it appears that there aren't any for 31, or else the lighting is just such that we're not able to make them out. And Vince actually found an echo between that and the trimmings of the trees in the background, where you can see 3 tiers in these cone-shaped trees. He sees that you can therefore pick 44 in order to essentially move up, and White Raven considers that to be a legit solution as well. So that's what has been nailed down, and then there are a few, basically some other things that have been nailed out that just fall into a few general categories. So the first one I'll talk about, there's been some more discussion of light and shadow. I think it was put forth the idea that 44, when you look at the sign over 44 and the other stones over the doorway, there's kind of a mixture with the shadow of the trees, a mixture of light material, material, whereas 24 you see the lightest of all the material, and 31 is the darkest of all, very much in shadow. Their picture, and the image of the two snakes intertwined suggests that you want to pick the room, the doorway, where you see the mixture of light and shadow. Therefore, you should pick 44. I like this, but I feel like you can't, both this and the confirmed solution can't really be true, because it's hard to be juggling using the 44 as the light path or the mixed path, and thinking of 24 as the light path or the dark path, and so I think that's probably why that hasn't been so far as anyone knows about whether it's confirmed any of this or not. But there's also something else related to that, which is that Mr. Gentile pointed out something that I think is very, very easy. Very, very easy. I think it's very easy to see that the intertwined snakes really suggest caduceus or caduceus, which is the staff, winged staff of women. If you just look at the winged, the staff with the wings at the top, the snakes are entwined in exactly the way they should be to suggest a caduceus, and that seems really deliberate. But it's hard to know what to really do with that. It may just be another illusion that he just threw in because it happened to work with other things that he was trying to do. It would sort of fit with the whole balance idea, because the nucleus is a symbol of the kind of things that Hermes represented, which includes ideas of balance, in the sense of fair trade, negotiation, that kind of thing that fell under Hermes' purview. So again, that could fit into the whole. You need to look at 44 as the one that's being balanced between light and darkness here. But again, that all seems to be sort of, all of this seems to be kind of this functional universe set of descriptions. You can't really choose incorporate all of those and all of the shrubbery, the light and dark solutions, because then you're getting too mixed up in terms of what's light and what's dark, and you have opposing views in that regard. So, also, talking about the bushes a little bit more, Vince has suggested that the bushes resemble the number 8, and therefore you can do 4 plus 4 equals 8, so therefore you can take 44, but then he also himself pointed out and so there's nothing in the text or anything else to really suggest why we would favor the addition over the multiplication, so it's not that solid. Other views on the bushes came from Greg, who pointed out that we have 4 bushes here, and we have 3 fully visible ones, that is, ones that are fully in frame, and we suggest that that gives us 2 tufts on the left of the tree, and 4 tufts on the right of the tree, and that gives you 4. And the reason why we would that is that the guide says, I wasn't referring to the plants, and therefore the idea of being perhaps that you too should also not refer to the plants, therefore you should avoid chain of 4. But I feel like this is, I mean, he probably feels the same way about this. I feel like it's a little ad hoc to just say, oh, we're only going to talk about the 3 bushes that are completely within the frame, because of course you can clearly see the 4th one, which is after out of frame. And of course that would give you 2 more tufts, and that would give you 4 and 4. So then it would feel like that could just as well be a clue away from 44, which would be bad. So I doubt that Greg himself is really holding on to this that much at that point, but I feel like that's probably there. So setting aside the doors and the snake, the other 2 objects which obviously cry out for discussion are the wrench and the bird. So talk about the wrench a little bit. I had this idea that looking at the 4s, well, actually not only the 44 but also the 24, looking at the 4s in this room, it's a very open front, which is not at all like many of the other foils that you see, where it's got that closed off. You know what I mean? And I thought that perhaps the wrench is supposed to be visually suggesting that same thing, because if you connect the fours together, suppose you have a very wrench-like shape, which you wouldn't get with a lot of the foils elsewhere, in fact, most of the foils. So I thought that that might be what the wrench was supposed to do. Thinking less torn. White Raven thinks he thought that was pretty good, but he didn't really want to call that a definite. He says that the wrench factors into two other riddles, which we don't seem to have cracked as of yet. So, am I still? Yeah, we're still there. Okay. So he suggests that we need to keep thinking about what the wrench could be contributing here. We haven't really found a whole lot else to do with it. Alex has been battering around a couple of ideas to do with the wrench. He suggests that there are four little internal angles within each of the jaws of the wrench. So that could be another way of getting 4 and 4. And the jaws themselves are equal, which is a bit unusual for a wrench where you would expect that they would be of two different sizes, which would be more practical. So again, that might be to stress the idea that we should be going to 44, where the two digits are equal. And Alex also has this idea that the wrench, the symbolism of the wrench is that we should be picking one of the two sides, but not the middle, because the middle of the wrench is usable, and therefore we should be avoiding the middle door, 24, and we should focus on 44 or 31 instead.
I want to redact that statement about it having 4 sides.
4 angles?
Yeah, there's clearly 5 sides.
Well, there are 4 sort of internal angles, I think. Well, yeah, there are 5 sides. I thought you meant that there were 4 angles, which there are, because obviously there are 2 sides for each angle.
I just think it's too arbitrary.
I agree. So it's maybe not even supposed to do with the wrench. I feel like the wrench probably has to interact with another element, and the obvious candidate is the bird, which is the last thing I'm going to talk about a little bit, because everybody thinks. I mean, at least you can stretch this, but the most intuitive reading of the guide's attempt to tell the visitors what this thing is called, the most intuitive reading is clearly that he's about to name what the bird is. And so we can think about this in other ways, but it seems like we're really being asked by the text there to name the bird, because especially, at least for me, there's this strong sense that there's probably some kind of wordplay going on with the wrench and the bird, but we have to be able to probably name the bird in order to get the solution. Unfortunately, it's really hard to do so, and people have named a whole bunch of possibilities, none of which seem to have gotten that much traction. For instance, one of the really knee-jerk ones that everyone wishes that this were the bird, but it doesn't seem to fit at all. Everybody thinks of the wren, because of course wrench, wren. Somehow there's some kind of dialogue. There's something that you could do with that possibly, but the wren, the family of birds that we call wrens, they're extremely tiny. They're extremely round. They don't suit the profile of that thing at all, and so it seems hard to justify that being a possible wren. Mr. Gentile has suggested that it could be a hoopoe in conjunction with his whole running Poe theme.
No, wrong room. That's 44.
No, he's actually suggested the hoopoe. He's probably tried to suggest the hoopoe for every bird. He suggested that this one could be a hoopoe as well, which it definitely can't be. This is probably the least likely candidate to be a hoopoe of the birds in the maze, because hoopoe, it's just a single species. It's very small. It has an unmistakable patterning on its wings, and it definitely couldn't fit the profile of this bird. So there have been another few ideas batted around. I keep wanting to maybe see it as some kind of a crane, which is a pretty large and diverse family, but it's a little tough. Only a few cranes have such a long beak as that, and they usually have very short feathers. Not like the very long, elegant plumage that we see here, and they tend to have longer necks than what we seem to see there. So, even though I feel like there's a lot of wordplay potential in crane and wrench feel like they could somehow go together, but I can't really justify calling that crane definitively. And then finally, Greg has also tossed out another couple of ideas. He tossed out the idea that it might be a bird of paradise, although they're also pretty small and they're very colorful birds. It would be strange to render one all in white with no evidence of different coloration in the bird's coat at all. And then he's also suggested the Huatzin, or stinkbird, as it's also known, as I found out, which is pretty cool. Which has a good crest. The crest is definitely one of the confounding factors here, and the Huatzin has a pretty good crest going for it, but I don't believe that there's. I don't remember whether it's a single species or a family of family of birds, but either way, I don't think that any of them have such a long beak as this. They all have very, very short pointed beaks. So
I think it's possible just because there was in room 16 that there's a pretty obscure reference to an obscure painting. I think it's fully possible that this could be, by some chance, a real bird.
Yeah, and it may just be. And I'm glad you mentioned 16 because I feel like there's a common theme between the bird in this room and the machine in that room, that we have a strong urge to name these things, and it's not clear whether or not we really need to, but there's a strong leaning toward the possibility that we have to get some kind of a word play or some other solution out of that. And
well, there's certainly impetus from the text in this room, even if we didn't inherently feel the need to figure out what kind of birds these are. The text sure seems to be tapping us on the shoulder to say, hey, figure out what that thing is.
Yeah. Although I'd be willing to hear, I have never really heard it as anything other than, as the host referring to anything other than the bird. But I know people have suggested other things. I don't know if anybody wants to bat out right now any other suggestions for what the host could be referring to when he says this, or if we all feel pretty strongly that it's the bird.
I think it's the bird because the wrench is pretty obvious. I don't think that's a caduceus though, by the way, because he would have drawn it as a caduceus.
Well, I think it's just meant to suggest the caduceus, which, I mean, the configuration of the snakes is exactly like it would be in a caduceus, so I think it's fair to say that there's a suggestion there, but I just don't know if we want to really run with that all the way.
Well, on that subject, there's something I just thought about tonight that I'd never thought of before. I don't know whether it takes us anywhere or not, but yeah, I mean, everyone who looks at those intertwined snakes, I think, has the same thought. It looks like a caduceus, but there's a lot of stuff missing from it. There's the rod missing from it. There's the ball missing from it, and then there are the wings of the bird missing from it. But that they're all in the room, which I never thought of before. If you think of those tree trunks, which they don't show, the tops of as rods, and then we've got balls either with the shrubbery that's been trimmed into balls, or I guess maybe even arguably with the rounded pots at the top, although I thought I'd go more with the shrubbery. And then you've got the bird in there with we do have the parts of a caduceus here in the room, and the wrench itself is sort of suggestive of either assembly or disassembly,
Or the wrench itself could be what's supposed to stand in for the rod. I really like that. That's a really cool idea. Again, it seems hard to know what we do with caduceus. I never thought of that, and I love the idea of the bird supplying the wing for the stuff. That's really cool.
Another thing that you didn't mention, and it's a genteel thing, and it's the kind of thing that ordinarily I'd read 2 sentences into it and then I'd be like, oh, geez, and just skip over it. But I've been kind of bitten by the same bug, so maybe it sounds crazy to everybody else. But he talks about this room in connection with Taoism, and reading it from a more deeply religious angle, I don't get into much, but in regard to thinking it as like a yin-yang room, I've kind of seen what he's saying there. And that goes with the reading, or the solution I gave before of 44, the sign being a mixture of light and dark, as opposed to just saying the light bushes are in front of 44 and the dark bushes are over there and light's better than dark. It's that the bird is the lightest thing, I guess, in the room, which is in front of room 31, and then you've got the dark bushes in 24, and the bushes in front of 44 are actually somewhere in between the two.
Oh, I
And
see. So instead of maybe I misinterpreted, or maybe this was Gentile's idea originally. So you don't want to look at the numbers over the door frames. You want to look at other associations to get 24
I,
is the dark room and 31 is the light room, basically.
I use both. I think it all goes hand in hand. I think the room overall is suggestive of that. I think the black and white intertwined snakes are suggestive of a balance between light and dark. I think the shrubbery and the bird are suggestive of a balance between light and dark. I think the different levels of lighting on the signs, and even if you look at the pot, if you look at the sort of the disassembled caduceus snakes and look straight up at the pot that's above that, it's kind of suggestive of a yin yang symbol without the dots on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like kind of a circle there that's half black and half white with a bit of a swirl pattern in the middle there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, if you go left or right across the room, you can see those get darker too. They actually start to become overgrown, and the last two look like the pots have actually fallen apart, and they're becoming overgrown with plants.
Yeah.
Addition, I mean, it's got this little path going along the right side that the wrench and the bird are on, which is how the word Tao is usually translated, which is path. And there's stuff in the text which I don't think impressed anyone else when I pointed it out. I should say that I've carried a copy with the Tao Te Ching with me everywhere I go for years. So it's certainly something that's more readily available to my mind than most people, and so it may seem like a more meaningful connection. But like where he starts to say what the name is, and they interrupt him, and they ask him, just tell us which way to go, and he refuses to talk. There are these famous lines in the Tao Te Ching about those who speak do not know, and those who know do not speak. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. And so all this business about like preventing him from saying the name, and they interrupt him to stop him from speaking when they're the ones who don't know, and then he refuses. Once I started looking at all the other Tao type things, was very readily brought to mind those lines in the Tao Te Ching, such that I would not be surprised if there were a deliberate Taoist inspiration behind this room. I wouldn't be surprised either if Manson was shaking his head in disappointment at hearing our sad and crazy theories about it. But I don't think that's as far fetched as some of the like Jesus Christ superstar that a lot of times we don't pay much attention to out of Gentile. I think he had a good thought in this one. The one problem I've got with it is that if you look at the door to 31, it actually is divided in between light and dark, like the doorway itself, better than any of the other doorways, because for some reason the right half of that doorway is lit up and the left half is dark, which means that if you were seriously taking this light-dark mixture thing, it's a pretty good case for 31. Maybe not as good of a case as for 44, because 44 has the dappled light on the number and it has the bush in front, but it does at least give a mixed message that kind of shoots a little bit of a hole in the middle of that reading.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know very much about it, so I can't really respond. But I do. I have to assent to how coherently that ties many of the elements of the room together.
I would say I don't think you mentioned, or maybe if you did, I missed it. One suggestion I've offered for the wrench and the shrubbery and trees is just the idea of symmetry, essentially, which is symmetry or the repetition of 4/4. Like you've got the same pattern repeated twice with the two-bush tree, like you've got 4-4, and you've got the wrench, which is symmetrical on both sides, which is kind of like having, the 4 and the 4 in the numbers. I don't know whether that's legit or not, but sometimes I think it's helpful to look at the numbers that you have in a room and just think of the different relationships between them or the different things that are special about this number. And as I was thinking about that, it's interesting that there is no other repeated number in the maze that's ever the correct room to go to. Like 11 is not the right room from anywhere. 22 is not the correct room from anywhere. I shouldn't say that. 33 is the correct room from 7. And, oh yeah, the 33 rooms from 7, a symmetry type clue in regard to room 33 from room 7 too. That's the room with the eyes, where Greg figured out that you've got the missing eyes on the left, missing eyes on the right, that come together to give you 33. So I don't know that really strengthens or has anything to do with what I'm saying here, but I'm suggesting, I guess, that there's the same type of reflecting the symmetry in the numbers with symmetry in the image here, as in 7, is a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Barry might be live drawing this one. Let's take a look.
I'm gonna switch focus to Barry.
Yeah. I saw him drawing 31 and 24 before, I think. Yeah, I can't see very much, but I think he's...
I think we probably need to talk a little more to give him a little more time.
Yeah.
I always thought, I just recently thought that there's sort of a symmetry reflected in the numbers, like the 4-4, and then you have the two twin bushes next to each other, the two twin trees, the wrench with the two same things on each side. Very dualistic room. It's got the two sort of to fit into the Taoist theory. The two snakes are the same. Maybe the fact that one is black is to throw you off a bit.
Oh, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether I've ever suggested that before, but yeah, it does seem like there is sort of a compatibility between the idea of symmetry or repeated pattern, and if you're going for a Taoism / yin yang theme to the room, because because the snakes, you've got this same sort of repeated imagery with snake on the left, snake on the right, one's black, one's white. In the bushes, you've got the repeated theme, but there's one set of lighter bushes, one set of darker bushes, and the wrench even has a lighter side and a darker side, if you look at it. So that may all be, and it's not left right, it's like top bottom if you look at the shading. The top of the wrench is shaded, and the bottom of the wrench is whiter. That's.
You mean sort of going upward into the room?
Yes. Yes. When I say top and bottom, I mean in terms of the page itself, what you would consider the top of the page, the bottom of the page. That's. I don't know that those are necessarily two completely different solutions. That's might be part of the same theme, in the same way that a yin-yang symbol is kind of a serially repeated image, not exactly symmetrical, but it's the same. 44 is not exactly symmetrical either. It's the same symbol repeated twice, and that's a yin-yang is in sort of a way the same design, flipped around and repeated twice, which is kind of what's going on in the room in different places.
Yeah, I think the real odd man out is actually the bird. It's not even a door, it's just a bird, because everything sort of has this dualistic nature to it except the bird.
Well, birds are dualistic by nature because they're animals in one sense, but it's also true that the bird is the word. God, I'm just
let me get all the way through that one.
I'm gonna blame that one on being on drugs.
Right.
That's the muscle relaxants. I never would have said that sober. The bird is odd, although, the thing is, he's got 3 doors. He wants to have the same pattern repeat twice. If we're assuming that solution, so it does mean he would want. There's got the third thing in front of the third door would have to be a different thing than another set of bushes. Like if he had a third set of bushes there that was lighter or darker, then we wouldn't have the double repetition. It would be not that he couldn't have figured it out some way. He could have spaced it out in such a way so that one of the 4 bushes. He could have just moved that 31 indicator over one to the next door. So he could have done it a different way. I don't know if that's really a sufficient explanation, but
I'm sorry, Mister. What would it have accomplished to move 31 over to this unmarked empty door?
well, what I mean is, yeah, that's a good point. What would that have accomplished? I guess I was going to suggest, and then he could have one of those. He could have, yeah. What would that accomplish? I guess it would just make 24 and 30. Yeah, that doesn't do anything. Never mind.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out a way that he could have like a lighter thing in front of 31 and a darker thing in front of 24 and then a mixed thing in front of 44. So maybe if he moved 31 over, then he could play with the lighting on the bushes. Then if he does that, throws off the serial symmetry.
And he'd end up to 64.
Was that Barry or Alex? I couldn't.
I think that was Barry.
What's up?
That was between. It was not me.
Being incredibly loud with his microphone somehow.
Some other stuff, nothing to do with, but 3 and 1 is 4, and 2 and 4 is 6, and 4 and 4 is 8. We do have kind of a 4-6-8 pattern going on there, and then we do have 100 8s. We've got a bunch of 8s in the room. If you're happy with those kinds of solutions. Oh shit! Not that I don't. What I just said. Not that I was really in love with it. I was kind of just saying it to say it. But then, we talked about. I mentioned before there are the 8s, and that doesn't really give you any reason to prefer 44 over 24 because 4 plus 4 is 8, just like 2 times 4. But if you look at the room that's going 4, 6, 8, and you got the 8, and you look at the stair step, and you look at the plants in the background, which point upward and go upward in a step pattern, those trees in the back, maybe that does come together to give you something,
It's the sense of ascending in 3 steps, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I like that too.
And not only do they go 4, 6, 8, but 44 is also the highest number itself.
Yeah, it's too bad about 31 being the...
Oh, shit, you're right. You're right.
So
You don't think it's too bad at all. You love it. You love shitting on people's solutions. Look at it.
No, I think that's cool. I like that. I just think maybe you don't want to take it too far with the 44 being the highest, but getting...
I think you're right, because I think 4, 6, 8 is more compelling than 44 is the highest number, and we've got stuff going up.
I'm gonna shit on this one. What's prompting you to do 3? Just the steps? Is that what you're saying?
What's prompting me to do 3 steps in particular?
Like, why choose 3? Why not 4 or 2 or whatever?
I don't know what you mean by choosing 3.
You guys, never mind. I don't know. Maybe I'm confused.
Well, no, I'm not.
Yeah, he's not choosing 3. It's 3 is chosen for him.
Yeah, 'cause we're using the numbers that are on the doors. It's just that there happen to be 3 numbered doors.
Because there's 3 doors, right?
Well, and 3 steps and 3 tiers in the tree. I think that's what he's... I think that's where the 3 is going to go.
And I'm counting 4 snowmen.
What's that?
From snowmen? Excellent.
Yeah, I see snowmen. I see 4 of them.
Barry, can we see the whole picture so far? I'm getting
Maybe. So you got I don't know. I focused it to be super focused from close up, but there's the 31 sign, and there's the first. Where's the snowman showing up? There's the first snowman. See if I can zoom out all the way. And there's the room 21, and it's about where I'm at. I set it to black and white, so.
It's a little blurry. We might have to wait till you're done, and you can just pull out and show us the whole thing at once.
Yeah, most likely. All these snowmen first.
They certainly are suggestive of snowmen, not that I've ever thought of anything to do with that.
Yeah, well, it's the holidays. I'm just always thinking about all that kind of stuff, and gingerbread cookies and candy canes.
triangular tree and everything there is kind of.
That raises an interesting point, especially with the wrench. If you're meant to assemble something like maybe a snowman.
Well, it's easier to make a snowman than draw it. You're just so used to making one.
The things at the top of the columns, they sort of look like snowman heads with hair, like a chia pet.
Yeah, they do look like heads, don't they? I've thought that too, and it's tough not to see that. They look like really shaggy heads.
I never thought that before, but I can see where you're coming from. Do you think there's anything in... No, there's not. Never mind. I was going to say, do you think there's like a room 25 type thing going on with how the bowls get overgrown and then destroyed as you go further right? But that wouldn't make sense because 24 is the worst room, not 31.
It is remarkable just how drastic the change is immediately when you go from 24 to 31.
Yeah, they really do make 31 look like the center of disaster.
Absolutely. And with especially also with the extremely dark space in between the little columns of the barrier, how rapidly those get just incredibly pitch black. The negative space in between those little columns over 31 definitely makes 31 look very ominous.
Yeah.
Another thing I was thinking beforehand when I was looking at this from earlier, I don't know if there's anything to do with this. I just feel like it's worth pointing out as long as we're looking at the upper half of the image. Is there anything we can do with the fact that we have the two tree tops over 24, which is the trap, but then we see only unfinished trees that are still continuing up beyond what we see in 31? I don't know. It seems like it could be something.
For me, you cut off for a second while you were saying that. Can you say that again?
Yeah, I just want to know if there's anything that could be done with the fact that over 24 we see these two trees and we see them conclude, we see their tops, versus over 31 we're seeing two more trees that are unfinished and are continuing up, and we don't get to see the tops of them. I don't know. I just wanted to do something with that, and I can't think of anything.
Yeah, Greg mentioned something about that. He mentioned about how because in the text he's not talking about the trees, yet there are trees above 24 and 31. So because of that relationship, 44, it could be a clue towards 44 because there's no trees directly above it.
Ah, so we have...
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. We have ideas. We have ideas for I wasn't referring to the plants, meaning the shrubbery, and we have ideas for I wasn't referring to the plants, meaning the trees. Stuff. Even setting aside this, whatever this is, you still don't know exactly what he's referring to sometimes.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. If you take that, I wasn't referring to the plant as kind of like the plants are misleading, or the plants that's not what's important here, or that the plants are bad, I guess. I mean, you've got both the ascending, the trees getting taller as you go off to the right, and you also have the overgrowth of the bushes or plants or whatever in the bowls on top there. The vegetation gets heavier as you go to the right. That could be, I guess, some suggestion to go to 44.
Well, the only reason I like it is because there's pretty much plants everywhere in this room, but the only place that different plan occurs is those weird looking trees.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you mean by a different plant.
Well, if you think of it, I mean, you've got the bushes. They're pretty much all along the balcony area, and then you've got the number 8 bushes. They're pretty close to almost all the doors except 31, and then you got the trees, which are like in other words, there's no plant that sort of points toward or not toward a door except really the trees, because they're pretty obviously just over 24 and 31, but it's not too obvious unless you actually look at them and say, hey, that's something different from the rest of the plants in this room, or the the flora in this room, as it were.
Hmm.
I noticed something else for the first time I'd like to bring up.
That's a great thought. I'm not going to take credit for it, but I like it.
What'd you notice?
Okay, now you gotta stick with me on this one.
Alright.
Look at the number of. I'm not gonna have you count anything, but just look at the number. Look at the size of the Jesus. What do you call them? Like the support pieces on the railing going along the top. You see what I'm talking about? Things going along the railing. You know what I'm talking about?
The banisters.
Talking about the little pillars? What are we talking about?
Yes. The little
Yeah.
things that are holding up the banister there.
Oh.
Okay. Look at, for instance, on the sign above 44. It looks like there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them that cover the 44 sign. Okay, like it takes about 5 of them to get across there.
So you're just counting the ones, including the span of the
Yeah,
of the tile that says
and the number's not particularly important. I'm just looking at the size of them right now, and it takes about 5 of them to get across. Now, at 24, it looks like it takes maybe 6 to get across the span of the sign.
Yeah.
But look over at 31. Now, 31 is largely overgrown with vegetation, so you can't see the whole thing. But those whatever you'd call them, are significantly larger. Can you see how it looks like it would take about 3 of them?
About 3.
Now, who gives a shit? The reason why that's interesting to me is turn to page 12 and look out your door to page 21 and look at the banister out there.
Oh, you guys didn't know that?
No. You're missing my point. I didn't first put together that looking out the doorway to 21 and 12 sort of matched the banister going around. But I'd looked at it before and I'd said, well, that's interesting. There's some similarities there, but that banister doesn't really match the banister that's going around in 21, because the shapes of those vertical pieces in the doorway to 21 and 12 don't match the vertical pieces that are going around in 21. But if you look off to the right there where it's starting to get dark, those things are getting significantly fatter and rounder as they go off to the right. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
I thought you were building up to something. I was like,
no, it wasn't. It wasn't a solution. It was just a connection between the rooms that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and 21 and 12 are inverted, so they both have 1s and 2s in it. And they both have 1, 2, and they don't have 2 1s, but they've got 1 1 in each one. But collectively, both of them are. Never mind.
Anyway, I don't want to jump. I'm not going to jump the gun and start doing. I think that's an interesting. That's an interesting connection between those rooms anyway. Given that it just seems to re-accentuate the reality of what you're seeing through the doorway, 21 and 12, contrasted with the fakeness of the image in the corresponding room in room 28. So anyway, it's always obvious you're looking outside and 21 is outside as well, and hey, look, it's a balcony and there's a balcony, but they didn't really match. But maybe now it's more something kind of like how the bottle in room 1 on the door doesn't look exactly like the bottle on the door in the prologue. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like just, all right, relax, buddy. It's essentially the same thing. It's supposed to be the same thing. Don't read too much into the fact that there's a small stylistic difference. Like maybe this is supposed to be the same banister that we're looking at in 12.
The maze is constantly changing and shifting, so maybe in some ways it's just kind of undulating.
No, I think Vince makes a good point because there is a case where he draws something the same in 2 rooms. It's a little toy duck in the cask room, in the portrait room. I think in that case, you're definitely drawn to thinking that it's the same actor.
I'm sorry, I'm losing you, Alex.
I was just talking about the toy duck, how it's pretty consistently drawn, and yeah, I think Vince is right in the sense that he didn't sort of do this on purpose. It's not well in terms, I mean, for the balcony, like it doesn't really matter, like because it's not drawn exactly the same, it becomes irrelevant.
So you're just shitting all over everything that Vince is bringing to the table.
No, I'm agreeing with him. I'm saying it's a good point, and I'm saying because of the toy duck, like you can see where he means to join, pair things, and where he doesn't.
Yeah, and like you could probably look at those 2 toy ducks and find some dissimilarity too. I haven't really looked too closely at them, but no, Alex is agreeing with me. He's saying when he's drawing what clearly is the same thing in a connected way like this, small stylistic differences are often, you just gotta overlook it. Kind of like, as I said, like the bottle, I think between the prologue and 1 is the clearest case of, man, that ain't the same bottle at all in the way that he draws it, but who gives a shit? It's a bottle. And it just kind of tells you, you don't need to measure every line and take every detail into account in that sense. And so here we're looking at a doorway to 21, and we see some outdoor vegetation and a banister going along a balcony, and then you go to room 21, and you got a bunch of vegetation and a banister running around a balcony. And it's like, just relax. It's the same goddamn balcony and banister, okay, everybody?
Yeah, it's like you're not going to complain about how in what is it? How in 12 there's like a palm tree outside, but when you look here, it looks like some pretty temperate flora rather than tropical. Is that something I said?
Well, you might take that as proof that the apparent opening in 21 isn't in 12 isn't actually an opening at all, but just a screen. But I suppose that's something that we'll be talking about whenever we cover rooms 12 and 28, which should be pretty soon.
All right. I don't think I've got anything else to say. Suggestions I've made that have gone nowhere. I've said, well, I tried to tie that bird in before with that upward scheme, the trees pointing upward and the stairs, and like, hey, it's a bird. The bird flies up, but I can understand not being too impressed with that. I think other than that, I don't have any. What's that?
Same idea going on in the hero room where you're supposed to take the bird as one of the clues.
That's true. He does use the bird in room 15 as a symbol of the sky.
Among others, to direct you upwards. So, I mean, there could be something there. There is just a definite upward point to those trees, especially the ones over 24. They really seem
I would definitely rate this one of the most dangerous rooms in the maze, considering you get here immediately from 1, and then you can immediately die.
Yeah. So
that was a real interesting choice from Manson, because it seems like that would be a really off-putting first journey through the maze if you went from 1 to 21 to 24. Like, if that was the first time I went to the maze, I don't know that I would think wow, that's really cool. This is such a dangerous, sinister place. I would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It was a, I mean, and he had to have some good reason. Maybe he did want to impress upon people how nasty this place can be, or how, suddenly unfair it can turn. I don't know. But this is certainly a place where, I mean, there's a doorway to 24, and there's not a lot telling you, like, that this is dangerous. Don't go there.
Yeah. It'd be nice if there was some kind of really strong clue away from 24, and so far we don't see anything like that.
Yeah, it's not like 14 where you have tons of clues all pointing towards that you're in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I mean, even in 14, like it seems like a room, like it's only accessible from 10, I believe, and so as a result, you're already more suspicious than, say you would come from here from 1, God knows why, it's I think the first room is pretty easy, but yeah, if you end up here, I think you pretty much deserve to go to 24. If this is the first place you end up.
Oh, come on. First time looking at maze, I mean, not everyone's going to stumble upon the solution. I mean, they don't.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just think there's ample clues against coming here from 1.
What's so
No,
bad about room 24?
What?
Room 24 is it's a cool room. What's so bad about room 24?
Full of Michael children.
Yeah.
That's the one with all the eyes, right?
Yeah. It's the one you
Yeah.
can escape from that means you lost.
I thought it meant you won. 'Cause, you got to join your friends. It's such a cool looking room too.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
How are you doing with that drawing, Barry? Because we're probably just about wrapping up over here.
Oh, yeah, I'm about 2/3 done. I can just upload it later.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think that's Manson's sick joke, is that 24 actually is the end, because we're all mortal. We'll end up there eventually.
But, that everyone in 24 seems to still be alive, despite having no apparent food or water. I mean, this is already seems to be some kind of otherworldly place.
You think it's more of a purgatory or limbo.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be ready to wrap up if you guys want to call it out on this one.
Okay.
Break for that's all right. We tossed around a bunch of ideas and who knows.
Just listening to Barry's furious scratching. Finish up the
All right, well, I guess that's going to be it then. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you. I guess maybe we'll do 12 and 28 next, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Broke the promise before. We'll try to do 12 and 28 next time.
All right. Cool.
See you later, folks.